Well, Kazim, let me come back to you now, because let's also look at one of the reasons
For sure.
why President Buhari was also selected is his will, to fight corruption. Let's look at that will. How willful is he, in his fighting against corruption? Kazim.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me. Like I said earlier, fighting corruption goes beyond the political will and the readiness of an individual. And in its broader sense, when you say corruption in its broader sense, I feel it goes beyond dipping your hand into or diverting federal properties into to personal self, or um, diverting resources meant for a particular people. I think it goes beyond that. In my opinion, um, the inability or the failure of the president of any country to achieve the fundamental responsibility of a government that has to do with welfare and protecting the people. To me, it's corruption, because I'm on that if you fail to provide welfare and shelter for your people, then it is very wrong for you to also fail to protect them. So if I'm taking it back to the ability of the president to actually deliver on the job he has just been given, coming up a strategy or pushing up a strategy on how to fight corruption in Africa. The president, if it's about him and him alone, then I'm very positive. But because at the same time, we cannot take away his efforts so far in fighting corruption in the country, taking cognizance of how he met the situation before he took the mantle of leadership. So it's a two-way thing. As an individual, yeah, he'll be able to achieve so much. But beyond his political will and his readiness that he has just been given will almost be impossible. Considering the fact that African countries does not owe AU any allegiance of any form.
All right, very well. I mean, you just heard him. I mean,
Yeah.
but in your own perspective,
Yes.
how do you see that going?
I think there's a foundational error. If you look at the whole selection process, the rationale for, picking Buhari as the anti-corruption champion, you discover that it's actually not clear. We can't really say if it's based on the media hype, that brought him into office. Of course, we know that there are just three tenets upon which he built his government, economy, security, and corruption.
Exactly.
But even at this, we know the anti-corruption war led by Buhari has been more perceived as a one-corner anti-corruption war.
One-sided.
Yeah, one-sided. It's just been, trying to, appearing more like a vendetta of some sort.
Do you have examples of such?
Of course, it's glaring. If you look at the presidency's reluctancy at picking on those who are corrupt officials in his own fold, we have the former SGF. We have the case of about $25 billion, in Kachuku's open letter that was mentioned. It wasn't addressed. Diversion of funds, IDP funds, several cases. And even this SGF, if you look at the approach to the SGF, you discover that it is more of a political reaction.
Yeah, he was detained.
Detained and, released just like overnight, like more like a political drama for the state, following Obasanjo's letter. So you can't see the clarity. However, I would have given it to AU leaders if you select him on the strength of probably factor of funding maybe Nigeria would be good, you know, the politics of that. But if you are looking at the fact that right now, you know, corruption has so much deepened itself in the continent, it's so bad that we have earned ourselves the shithole kind of continent, you know. So
According to President Trump.
you get. So it will have been better that we follow index. For instance, the index released by Transparency International, you know, shows that Nigeria is not moving forward, no growth recorded, 136 out of 175. So if you have that, why not look at countries that have the framework, countries in the continent doing well? Then if you probably pick a Botswana that is ahead of Nigeria, 30, rated 30, then that will probably show that the continent is serious about fighting or battling corruption. But the way we are going about it, it's obvious that it's just the same old way.
Just hold your breath for a minute. We'll take a break and we'll be back shortly. Please stay with us.